DLC is a great way to add extra content to a game for many reasons, and a great way to add hype for players who loved a game and were disappointed to see the credits begin to roll. In Andromeda's case, however, the majority may feel like DLC needs to make up for the disappointing overall game. Now, whichever category you side more with, a lot of fans of Mass Effect, both new and old, would love to have some single player DLC for Andromeda. And chances are that if there is some coming, that will be in the form of the Quarian Ark, due to the hints dropping everywhere throughout the game. In this video, I'm going to talk about 5 things we here at BioWare Follower want to see if this DLC is going to be released. And if it's not, hell, actually I don't know what I'll do. But anyway, this video is in no particular hierarchy, and is an opinionated video. I'm going to only be talking about DLC content and no changes to the main game, as it currently is. Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let's get right into it. Okay, so first off, we want other races and a possible new race or foe. We obviously all know that the Quarian Ark is harbouring other Milky Way species in the form of Drell, Elcor and Hannah, and possibly others, so they may not be new, but it is something extra to spice up Andromeda. In a future video, I wish to discuss whether these races were needed upon release, or whether the Angara was sufficient alone, but more on that idea another time. A new foe I believe is necessary, however. Whether that only be more exalted races, that doesn't really faze me. I'd love to see some exalted Asari, Turians, Solarians, Elcor, or maybe Drell. Regarding it's not too similar to the whole Reaper concept designs and combat styles, but equally, a new enemy would also be great. Who knows, maybe the return of the Jardan is also in store for Helios. I'm likely to refer to the Citadel DLC throughout this video many times, so in this instance, the new enemies were Cat 6 in this DLC in Mass Effect 3. They're basically just reskinned Cerberus troops, but because they appeared different, it kind of felt more enjoyable to fight against the same type of units, such as the common snipers and heavies, or maybe engineers, but you know, you get the image. So if we were to fight Remnant or Ket again, the DLC won't feel very new, and if there's nothing interesting to shoot, then it makes me want to go and play a game based on stealth. So moving on, I would love to see the biotic god on this arc. You know, Nifdu Karl from Mass Effect 2? The great wind that can tear Wasea around like a ragdoll?
They may laugh when I fall over, but they don't know what I know in my head. That I know that I am amazingly powerful. Fear me?
Just kidding. Although I'm probably secretly not. But as a bonus idea, maybe Andromeda is an excuse to be able to see the Quarians without their face masks on. Especially seeing as fans felt cheapskated out of this in Mass Effect 3 through Tali's romance storyline. This isn't a huge thing, and some fans couldn't care less, but details are important no matter how big or small. But moving away from this slight sidetrack, our second idea on what we would like to see is some form of interaction with either the story or layout of the main game after finding the Quarian Ark. More often than not, DLC is something completely separate to the main game, where you won't notice many or any changes to the game prior or after the DLC has been installed. I want to be able to find Drell and Hannah on some of the Golden Worlds after saving them, or seeing them around the Nexus plenty. Not complete the DLC and have no change, or have to travel to the Quarian Ark to be able to notice this difference. Maybe having a Quarian Pathfinder could also help Captain Dunn in the final mission, or be able to help retake Meridian in a way that allows you to unlock an even better ending than the one before. But obviously not dramatically, in order to comfort those who don't want to buy the DLC, but enough to make the game feel less linear and enhance replayability. Now this is probably a terrible idea that shouldn't ever be mentioned, but the Pathfinders are the key to saving Captain Dunn, so in that way it would kind of make sense for some kind of benefit, especially as I'm presuming Andromeda suffers from the lack of replayability as opposed to its former Mass Effect titles. This may be only a tiny change or feature to the DLC, but in my eyes, a DLC shouldn't be just added to a game but implemented into it, almost making it hard to detect that it's DLC content and not something else. Plus, not everything on this list needs to be super crazy or extreme in concept. Next up, now we feel like a lot of fans are wishing for a decent length DLC. I mean, after the payment alone, this is a given, but if the angrier fanbase to Andromeda really are relying on DLC to be great, then this may also be essential. DLC for Mass Effect has often been a decent length, but this has also fluctuated between the games and other DLCs. But this comes down to the good old fashioned saying of quality and not quantity. Whilst having both is always a preference, I for one would prefer amazing and relatively short DLC which adds new context and backstory over something that is long and possibly repetitive or too similar to what we already have in the game. We want to know what has happened to the Quarian Ark. We don't want a copy and paste of the Asari and Solarian Ark missions, where the Ark is being attacked, we get there in time to save around half of the crew, and that's it. So hopefully this is going to be a thing where we get a lot of story, enough to be interesting and enough to keep us busy and away from tedious side quests. Obviously, to keep the DLC long, side quests are kind of needed, but there is a right and a wrong way to get this across, and if the side quest ideas are good or unique, players may not even pick up on it. As previously mentioned, the Mass Effect trilogy did great DLC, and my next point will briefly expand upon what I am mentioning right here. The fourth thing we want to see is a bit of an odd one, but I can justify it for you, and that's sort of having moments along the wavelength of the Citadel DLC, some of the best DLC I have played to date, due to its length, design, interactions, story, and great additional humour. The Armax Arsenal Arena, the down-to-earth time with your crew including party, and the new mission ideas kept the DLC fresh and fun, and this would be great if similar but different in Andromeda, so kind of like a longer version of the movie night side mission, with a ton more side content for after the rescue of the Quarian Ark. So the Citadel DLC brought us multiple arcade games like the Claw game, Shattered Ezo, and Kapeshi Yakshi. And believe me when I tell you that the lore of Mass Effect states there are so many other possibilities of games and sport interactions that could be additional content. So for example, we have Biotable or Cola, the former being a game for all species, aka a biotics handball, and the latter being a Krogan sport. I'll let that one sink in. But the council actually banned Cola due to an incident leaving many dead or injured. But the perfect thing here is that Andromeda doesn't have this damn council stopping Mass Effect fans from witnessing this with Drac and maybe Burtak in person. I mean, who's with me? But something along this wavelength with the Armax Arsenal Arena would be great to add length, enjoyment, and character or squadmate interactions. Hell, even if it's doing yoga with Lexi, or getting to witness the fire-breathing Fresher Moors of Doom game in a bit more detail. And as our last spot on this list, we're hoping for a really awesome Quarian Pathfinder, or maybe a potential temporary or permanent DLC squadmate. Or maybe it doesn't even have to be a Quarian Pathfinder, despite not that making as much sense as it is the Quarian Ark. But what's stopping there being more than one Pathfinder, or instead the Pathfinder being of the Drell or Elcor race? I mean, that would be either cool or hilarious respectively. But I imagine this isn't just something we are secretly praying for. Tali is the most notable Quarian in the series so far, so there's a lot to live up to if the Quarians are heading to Helios. An awesome Quarian or other Milky Way race member will help to add to the already awesome squadmate lineup, or if you didn't really enjoy the former 6, then maybe this would make up for it. Choice is also something that felt lacking in Andromeda. Whilst we kind of get to choose between the Asari and Solarian Pathfinders, this decision should be implemented somehow with the Quarians. It may be a bit too repetitive, and I am a fan of change, but this branches the replayability and could give fans more of what they want from the Quarians, hopefully being added to the game. For me, I'd like a really awesome male Quarian this time around, so you can get what I'm saying about needing change, but also satisfying the cravings of fans who need yet another amazing Quarian partner. For example, the decision for Pathfinder could be between maybe a male or female Quarian, with similar lines but both unique and awesome in their own way. Overall, if a DLC is released for Andromeda in the form of the Quarian Ark, it has a lot to live up to due to the sheer hate fans gave the game, whether unfairly or not in your opinion. But for those who are watching this video, and therefore most likely being those who enjoyed Andromeda, I'm sure you can agree about most things on this list. Let us know your top 5 or most hopeful ideas that you want to see in this possible DLC. Again, thank you all for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for plenty more Mass Effect content. And we'll see you again in a future video. Goodbye everyone.